YouTube, vinyl community, Byrds fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens. We're here today to talk about the Byrds' fourth album, Younger Than Yesterday, released on Capitol, right, Columbia Records, February 6, 1967, hit number 24 on the pop charts. It's their fourth album with Columbia, and if I had to pick, it's probably my favorite. I love this album. This is the mono version, which is pretty cool. And I found this recently for like $4. I couldn't believe it was only $4, so I had to pick it up. This album branches off of what Fifth Dimension was doing in terms of psychedelic stuff for the Byrds. They were going through some changes. Gene Clark is completely not on this thing at all. He was on parts of the Fifth Dimension album. And this was one of the last full releases with David Crosby on it before things totally started to splinter. But I love this record because Chris Hillman is really coming into his own as a songwriter on this thing. He co-wrote So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star, then wrote 4 other songs on this album. And there's only one cover. They do one Dylan song, and the rest of it's all originals. But it's just a fascinating listen because you hear a lot of what the Byrds would become in the next few albums. You hear a couple of country rock influences. You get psychedelic. You get classic Byrds Dylan stuff. You get rock and roll stuff. So it's a mixed bag of where the Byrds were at this point. And for me, that's why I like it so much. You get a lot on this album, and it's a really fun listen. Apparently, upon its release, it didn't do so well. It charted at number 24, which is fine. But like in terms of popularity, it wasn't something that was pushed or promoted as heavily as maybe some of the earlier stuff had been. Then later that year, the Byrds' Greatest Hits came out. So that thing sold like crazy, and it's still one of the best-selling Byrds albums, if not the best-selling Byrds album there is. But yeah, this was definitely a growing album for them. Gary Usher produced this. This was his first of 3 albums with them. Gary Usher, of course, famous with the Beach Boys with Brian Wilson there. Hugh Masekela plays trumpet on So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star, and his contribution is perfect and so timeless to that song. They remake Why, which is a B-side for 8 Miles High. They do that as the closer track on here. And I love the transitionary feel this thing has, where it blends what Fifth Dimension was doing, introducing the psychedelic elements. This one takes that a little bit further and even shows what they would do next. So the Byrds were always on the verge of the next thing. But So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star? Well, listen now to what I say. Just get an electric guitar, take some time, and learn how to play. This song, for me, I'll give you a really brief little story. When I joined a band when I was in college, we did classic rock, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s rock. We played bars and venues and restaurants and all kinds of stuff. But we focused on older stuff. And the first song I ever learned how to play on bass in that band, I played bass guitar in that band, was So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star. So this song for me has always been one of my favorites, purely because I'm biased from being in a band that played it 100,000 times. But I love this song. The jangly guitar, the rolling bass line, which I love to play on the bass. Having that trumpet on there is such an integral part of that song. Integral? I'm never sure to say that word. It's a really big part of that song. It sounds awesome. It's just a really great track and moves constantly. That shuffling rhythm does not let up. And I love the story behind it. Here's what you gotta do. If you want to be in the music business, this is it. Or as A Tribe Called Quest once famously sang, industry rule number 4080, record company people are shady. I just really, really enjoy this track. It was the lead-off single in January of '67, and classic Byrds. Have You Seen Her Face? This is one of my favorites on the whole album. Chris Hillman did this one. He sings it as well. But it's a total pop rock bliss, and that guitar solo is so cool. It's this sort of messy, like you're tripping over the strings guitar feel, but I love it, and they do it a couple of times. It's great. The chorus is beautiful. It's got this joyous comfort there. The track just produces magic. It's a classic song, and I think it was released as a single as well, but should have did more. If it was a single, it should have been way higher in the charts than it was. CTA 102, this song is awesome. It's the Byrds Go Back to Space. It's Mr. Spaceman Part 2, if you will. And I love how far out it gets at the end, where it sounds like it's blasting up to Mars, and you can hear the radio playing where it's playing the song you just heard, and you hear all these trippy voices and psychedelic effects. I love when the Byrds go psychedelic. It's a total country rocker, but they mix in psychedelic. So psychedelic country rock, again, where the Byrds were kind of pioneers at. Renaissance Fair, dig this track a lot, because this totally sounds like what you'd get 2 years later as Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, or it's Crosby, Stills and Nash. David Crosby's imagery and storytelling is so colorful and detailed, and when you sing about the smell of something or the sights of particular items or something historical, I mean, he really does a great job of bringing a world to life, influenced by going to an actual Renaissance fair. And it's a fantastic song. It's got this comforting, chill vibe to it that you'd get with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and those harmonies. I love that song. Time Between, yeah, this one's really cool. Great guitar picking on this one, totally country rock on this one. Short, simple, little song, but very effective, gets the job done. The maracas are an excellent touch. Keep that shake and feel going on. Dig that. Everybody's Been Burned. This is a really fascinating song. The eeriness here is so good. The way it slowly moves, it's just so smooth on the ears. It's not a dark song, but it's just kind of got this like look over your shoulder feeling the whole time. It's a mood. It's a total mood. And the use of empty space is fantastic. It allows the song to breathe and kind of come to life. It really sounds like nothing else the Byrds had done by this point, which would be followed by another song on this album, which sounded nothing like what the Byrds had done. Side 2 starts off with Thoughts and Words. I love this song. This is one of my favorites on the album. The pacing here is cool, but the groovier moments are great. The drums are awesome on this track. More of that jangly classic guitar sound, and very understated vocal delivery. I really love the singing here. The backwards effects are cool. I'm a sucker for backwards effects, but everybody was doing that at that point. Once everyone heard Rain by the Beatles, they were like, backwards, let's do it. Then you get Mind Gardens, and speaking of Far Out, David Crosby fought like hell to get this song on the album, and I can see why. It's a very bizarre track, but I really dig it. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, as he famously said, this song doesn't rhyme or have a structure to it. It's just kind of a loose jam. But his storytelling, again, is right on track. I mean, it's another song that you listen to, you experience. You might not be able to sing along to it or bop your head to it, but you're there for the ride. It's a little bit longer of a song, and I think that's why some people might be a little turned off by it, but I like it because it shows their growth. I like it because it shows them, or David in particular, wanting to see the band continue to develop and not do the same thing twice, which is super important. And so many bands are scared of taking risks and taking changes, and I'm glad the song is on this album. Then you get My Back Pages, which is one of their best Dylan covers. It's joyous and wise. It's got just wonderful vocals and a bouncy rhythm section. They prove time and time again that using Dylan as a template works for them. It's one of the best songs on the record and one of the best Dylan covers they ever did. It shows how tight of a unit they were when they can work together and build something out of someone else's work and make it their own. Fantastic song. But the wistfulness in it and the longing and the looking back is so palpable. It's a really well done production. The Girl with No Name is an excellent country rocker song. Great guitar work, as usual. The bass is rubbery, and I love that. It helps the track move along with the drums. The vocal harmonies on here are fantastic, and the guitar solo was very George Harrison, which is funny because George was influenced by the Byrds, so they probably influenced each other back and forth, but I love this song. And the closing track, Why, is one of my favorites on here too. The guitar work here, the combination of the clean sounding guitars and the distorted guitars, beautiful balance there. But the group vocals, the syncopation, the vibe here is so cool. The way they repeat why, I love that. I'm really glad they remade this version for this album because it fits so perfectly on here. It's a great closer to the record. The bass work on this track in particular is so pronounced. Yeah, awesome closer to the album. Here's the back cover. If you look closely, you'll see the text is different for side 1 compared to side 2. Pretty cool. The cover is awesome. It's like not like a stop motion, but like a delayed photography kind of thing. So it shows them in different movements at the same time, which is pretty awesome. The original inner sleeve is long gone, so I put it in one of my fancy MoFi sleeves. Anti-static and all that, but really nice shape mono. I think I got it for $4, which was pretty cool. Had to dig for it. it was buried, but I found it. It sounds really good. It's really clean. Only a couple of pops and stuff here and there, but overall it's really not that bad. Like I said earlier, I love this album, and I got into it purely because of my old band, playing So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star, and I was very intrigued by what the rest of the LP would sound like. And I remember playing it a lot back in the day and really enjoying it then, but coming back to it again on vinyl, hearing it on vinyl for the first time actually was fascinating. And just there's something about holding a record from a different time and like experiencing it as it was experienced the first time ever when it came out. And so hearing it on record was awesome. So for this album, a 7 or 8 out of 10 for me. I really enjoy hearing them grow as artists and trying new things, having Chris jump out in the front, doing a lot more, where before he didn't do much besides play bass in the band and sing too, but he didn't really write anything or have much of a upfront vocal. So I always find that fascinating when band members sort of discover their own band members and say, oh wow, you can do all that? Well, great, come on in. You know, it's awesome to see that growth inside their own band. So yeah, 7 or 8 out of 10 for me. I really dig this, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So that's it. My name is Giggens. This has been the Byrds, Younger Than Yesterday. It's been an honor to review this album. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.